Hey everybody, I'm Andrew of the Movie Buff Pains. Now, I normally do solo videos involving animation, but I kind of wanted to take a break from that just for today and do something a little different, though not too outside of my normal wheelhouse. And I wanted to talk about the live-action remakes that Disney has been producing for the last several years. I've found the reception to these movies has been so all over the board, honestly. It's really crazy because so many people don't want to see their beloved cartoons messed up to such a degree, or they basically want to see the exact same thing in live action, just, looks prettier with favorite actors and whatnot. And you know what? It ranges in what Disney has given us. Some have been kind of reinventions of the original stories, some have been copy and paste essentially, and some have been, somewhere in between where they respect the original story but add their own touches to it that, give it a new life. And that's the sweet spot that I feel like Disney needs to hit more often, honestly. So I just wanted to talk about the movies that Disney has put out so far, and I'll give my few thoughts on them, and I'm going to be showing them how I have them ranked on my own personal list. I'll start from the bottom and go up from there. At the bottom of my list, I actually have Alice Through the Looking Glass. I was actually a pretty good fan of Alice in Wonderland. I enjoy that story, and Tim Burton's take on it was really fun to watch. But Through the Looking Glass kind of took 2 or 3 steps back. It really kind of muddled that whole world for me a bit. And I just I've only seen it once, maybe twice, I think, but it just has left me with a bit of a sour taste, which is rare for a movie to do. But I just feel like they were just banking on the success of the first one so much. I mean, Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion worldwide, and they were just like, oh, well, we can just make another one and it'll earn just as much. And not true at all. If you don't have a good story and everything behind it, it just wasn't that good, honestly, which is why it's at the bottom of my list. Disney trying to do sequels to these remakes is not their best idea, honestly. And speaking of the sequels that they have attempted from this list, the next one going up is Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. This one was entertaining enough, but it still fell very short, I felt, of what they did with Maleficent. They reinvented the story of Sleeping Beauty, and this was them, I don't know, it was like they were trying to explain why the story of Sleeping Beauty is how it is and how Maleficent is still trying to gain retribution, which I just didn't totally understand myself. It had some cool sequences, but overall it just didn't hit me quite right like the first one did. The first one felt a lot more original, whereas this one just kind of was trying to add padding to that world and just didn't work as well. The next one on my list, and I'm really sad that Disney couldn't have done more for this film. I feel like they could have done a lot more, especially with the fact that not only have there been sequels to the original film, there's been a musical. They had so much material they could have pulled from, and yet we got pretty much a copy and paste of The Lion King. I really had hoped this movie would be better than it was. I was so excited when they announced it, and seeing trailers, I thought it was going to be so amazing. And you know what? It looks amazing. It really does. It is a phenomenal piece of computer work. It looks very lifelike through most of the scenes. And, Jon Favreau did do a wonderful job with creating this new version, but it's the exact same story. There's literally, I think, like one added scene, and it is all of like 2 minutes difference, and it really didn't do anything to really expand on the story at all. which is what I kind of hope for with these films, is that it's like, yeah, we know what happens in this story. It's like, but can you throw something at us that maybe we weren't expecting, or something that maybe we never caught on to from the original? They let the technology just overshadow everything. They were so focused on giving us a very realistic, nearly lifelike Lion King that they were like, oh, well, it's already got a winning story. It's like, let's not do anything else. Let's focus entirely on the animation itself. And that just did not work out. I think it's pretty universally agreed that it is a copy and paste job here. And again, it looks beautiful. It's a gorgeous film, but it's lacking in a lot of departments. They could have done more with it. They should have done more with it, but it is what it is, and that's why it's kind of that low on my list, honestly. Up next is Alice in Wonderland. I said it earlier, I do like this film. It's really enjoyable, and Tim Burton did a wonderful job with it. It is definitely his flavor of story, and they definitely took the story of Alice in Wonderland and changed it around a little. It definitely has Burton's touch all throughout it, and Johnny Depp does a great job as the Mad Hatter. In fact, all the characters are remarkable in their own ways. Helena Bonham Carter is great as a villain, as is Crispin Glover. Anne Hathaway, I thought, was a very nice addition to the story, with her character of the White Queen. And of course, Mia Wasikowska. She is a great actress, and I thought she did really good in this film. Kind of over the top and weird, and that's what I always loved about the original story too, was just how weird it was. It always fascinated me. Next up is Maleficent. Like I said before, this is a great different take on the Sleeping Beauty story, having it told from the villain's perspective instead. And Angelina Jolie blows it out of the water as Maleficent. I mean, she really was born to play that role. She does a remarkable job in it. And the story definitely was a lot more original compared to some of the other movies that they have done, and yet it still had those hints and notes of the original animated movie, and I really enjoyed that a lot. It's definitely worth checking out just alone for Jolie's performance, because I think it is just that good in there. Then we have Christopher Robin. This was a really cute film and flew under the radar, honestly. I don't feel like I ever hear people mention this one, and probably just because not a lot of people went and saw it. But Christopher Robin was a seriously cute film, bringing back to life all the characters of Winnie the Pooh. Here you have a grown Christopher Robin being reunited with all his old toys that he used to play make-believe with as a child, and watching him kind of recapture his inner child again definitely hits you on all kinds of emotional levels, honestly. And they do a wonderful job with bringing these toys to life. I mean, they really are a joy to watch, these characters, especially because we haven't seen them in ages, and it was just a really cute film all around. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely worth giving a watch. After that, we have Dumbo. This was one that was very divisive for people, I feel, and it was another one that seemingly flew under the radar, I feel, as well. The original animated movie, I feel, was very simple, which was part of its charm. There wasn't a ton of plot to it. It was more of just watching this little elephant trying to make his way in a world that is ridiculing him. Not overly plot heavy, just a lot of situational stuff, really. But this remake, they definitely tried to add to the story, and they did add to the story. They tried to give him more layers, they put more characters. I mean, they didn't totally focus it on the animals 100%. They involved the humans of the circus as well, and I honestly thought it was a bit of an improvement. I know a lot of people thought that they just added too much and it was too different, but I kind of appreciated that in a way. It just felt like, they reinvented Dumbo a bit. And yeah, while it has the hints of the original in there as well, it was definitely different enough that I could really appreciate it. It was quite a fantasy film, honestly, and this was another one to come from Tim Burton. While Alice in Wonderland would probably be more reminiscent of, say, Beetlejuice or Nightmare Before Christmas, I felt like Dumbo was a lot more a la Big Fish in certain ways. Just the fantasy elements to it seemed more grounded, but at the same time just magical. And honestly, it's a good film. I think it's definitely worth watching. If you've heard people saying it's way too different, it's like, well, yeah, it is really different. But if you go in knowing that, I think you can enjoy it a lot more. I've gone into all these films never expecting them to be anything like the animated movie, and I've not been disappointed for the most part with any of them, but Dumbo is definitely worth checking out in my opinion. The next one after that is Disney's first digital only release, and that one is Lady and the Tramp. This one was adorable, honestly. I couldn't get enough of it. I loved the cartoon when I was a kid. I loved it to death. I love stuff involving dogs, cats, and whatnot. This was definitely a nice little piece to come out of Disney. I'm sorry that it wasn't able to come out in theaters, that they didn't feel like it had enough of an audience. I think it could have done modestly well, but it was definitely fun to watch. I really enjoyed it a lot. It would be so nice if Disney would one day release it physically, just so I could add it to the collection officially. They definitely added just a few little things here and there to Lady and the Tramp to give it a little more edge over the cartoon. I both appreciated that and again also felt like they could have done a little more. But at the same time, for the story itself, it kind of worked out. And it's very cute. It is very cute. It is so worth the watch. And I'm very happy that they went and remade that one. I thought it made for a wonderful film. After that, we have The Jungle Book. Jungle Book. This is another example of taking the core material and ever slightly expanding it. And it was a wonderful job. This was the first movie in these remakes to involve Jon Favreau, and it had that same level of computer technology that they used for The Lion King. Maybe not quite as good, but pretty darn close. And that environments and animals look great. The voice cast for the animals is marvelous, and they did a wonderful job with the story. Again, they expanded on it ever so slightly, just enough that it made it really enjoyable for me. I always liked The Jungle Book, and I definitely enjoy the remake just as much. This brings us to my top 5. I hope I don't make any of you too angry with what I think deserves to be near the top of these movies, but you know, again, it's just my opinion, so I'll go ahead and dive in. Number 5 is Beauty and the Beast. This was a good example of Disney taking their original film and expanding it, you know, decent amount. Disney took what was originally like a 75 or 80 minute film and expanded it to nearly 2 hours. I mean, that's quite a bit to add in, honestly. But they did a pretty decent job. I think my only issue with the movie itself, honestly, is just that the singing in some of the songs felt very auto-tuned and kind of out of place. And it took me out of the movie just a little bit. I definitely enjoyed some of the new character developments and some of the new songs they added in. It looks beautiful, honestly. They did a wonderful job with the sets. And, you know, overall, it's a very entertaining film. I was definitely looking forward to it when they originally announced it, and I was not disappointed for the most part. It was a really wonderful film, and I definitely enjoy rewatching that one. Number 4 might get me into trouble just a little because I've been reading the reviews and seeing people's comments on the various movie sites, so I tread very carefully when I say at number 4 I have Mulan. I just watched this one today, actually. I will say this. It is different from the original. That seems to be what a lot of people are quipping about, is that it is different from the original. That's kind of the point of remaking films for the most part, is to do something maybe a little bit different. Mulan, especially for my generation, seems to hold a more special place. It came out when a lot of us were little kids. A new Disney movie was, of course, amazing. It was wonderful. The songs were catchy, and it was just such a fun ride. And, so I can understand for a lot of people that Mulan holds a special place. And Disney going back and kind of redoing it probably angered a lot of people. I went into it with as open of a mind as I could. There are some strong points to Mulan. It has got some great action sequences. The cinematography is beautiful. The acting wasn't terrible. The lack of any songs wasn't a problem for me. The lack of Mushu wasn't a huge problem for me, honestly. And it felt very much like a historical fantasy film rather than a remake of a Disney film. And yeah, maybe it wasn't perfect, but it definitely is a lot better than some of these other movies that have come out, in my opinion. And it was very entertaining. There were definitely some issues with it, but it was a very good film, in my opinion. Definitely worth checking out. If I'm going to make one remark, it is this. If you haven't seen it yet, wait. It is not worth spending $30 to watch it now when you could watch it in December for free. Well, free if you have a Disney Plus subscription. Or if you have another way to watch it, you can go ahead and do that, I guess. But it's definitely not worth putting out the money for it. And honestly, you shouldn't. It's rather ridiculous that Disney is trying to gouge us out of even more money just to try and recoup their losses for them not wanting to put the movie out in theaters. They could have waited just another month or two and put it out around Thanksgiving time when movies do very well usually. Even with the pandemic, movie theaters are opening up again, and they probably could have made a really decent haul and at least made back most of their budget. But instead, they've decided to go this route, $30, and you get to watch it 3 months before everyone else. I love your products, but I just do not like your business choices. Anyways, now that I've had a thorough tirade against Disney, I'll go on to number 3, and that is Aladdin. This film was so much fun. It really was. This was another good example of them taking the original story and adding to it where they could, especially with giving Will Smith's genie a little subplot as well, which I really enjoyed. And it is fun and colorful. They added little details here and there, and it really worked out so well. It's one of the best ones to come out of Disney, honestly. And I was worried that, it wouldn't be able to live up to the reputation of the original, as well as, having to see someone else playing a Robin Williams character. That was tough. But Will Smith did a wonderful job. He definitely brought his own spin to the character, and his version of Genie is really, really good. The rest of the cast did remarkably well. The songs are wonderful, and again, it is a beautiful film, and they did a wonderful job. Definitely one of the best that Disney has put out. Number 2 is probably going to be a bit surprising, just in the fact that I feel like this is another one that flew way under the radar, like Christopher Robin. I don't feel like nearly anyone saw this film, and I never hear it mentioned, ever, which is really unfortunate because this next one is a wonderful film. And at number 2, I have Pete's Dragon. The original Pete's Dragon was a hybrid film, and so it involved, a cartoon dragon over live action actors. And, the original has its charms, kind of silly songs, and involves a boy running away from being a slave to a bunch of backwoods hicks. And yeah, that wouldn't translate well in today's society. So rather, in this remake, they took a little boy who got lost in the woods and was essentially raised by his friend, a dragon. And it works so much better, honestly. This is a more grounded, American myth, kind of. The fact of there being dragons in the woods of the Northwest. It's a really good story and has really great character development too. We get to see this little boy who has grown up in the wild, essentially, and how he learns what it is to be part of a family again, and how to be able to trust other people other than his best friend Elliot. Amazing adaptation of the story, honestly. The director, David Lowery, has made some wonderful films in his career, and his style is written all over this film. Again, this feels very grounded in reality for the most part, and it's a story about the people around Elliot. It's not really as much about Elliot himself. It's about a little boy growing up and realizing that it's important to have people and support in your life. And it is honestly such a wonderful story. If you haven't seen this one, you need to watch it. It is a wonderful character-driven film. Such an improvement on the original, honestly. This is like the only one where it is way better than the original. And, you know, again, that's my opinion, but it is well worth the time if you can. If you want a Disney film that at all feels like an independent film, this is the one for you. It is really amazing, and I can't recommend it enough. Number 1 is Cinderella. This film hits on all the right notes in my opinion. It expands ever so slightly on the original, giving a little more depth to the characters especially. It looks amazing. It is a beautifully shot film. The costume design is amazing as well. Just is so colorful, so beautiful and elegant all across the board. Kenneth Branagh did an amazing job on this film. I hope that Disney brings him back to do something else in the future. In my opinion, all the characters have some small expansion on them, and I think my favorite honestly has to be Cate Blanchett playing Lady Tremaine. She does so good as a villain. She is remarkable. She just brings this perfect balance of just malice and grace at the same time that you can't help but just squirm when she is in the room. It doesn't have any of the songs, but it works out well for this version, honestly. And of course you get little hints of them here and there within the music, but it just all around is a wonderful retelling of the story of Cinderella. And again, it's beautiful and everyone in it is great, and it's a little more fleshed out and definitely worth the watch if you haven't seen it by chance. Well, that's my ranking of the live action Disney remakes. I hope you enjoyed watching. Check out some of the other videos that me and my wife Bethany have up on our channel. And of course, check out my series of Andrew's animation if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you on the next one.